Faith, Fiction, and Folklore, or as we like to call it, the Try-F podcast, where we try not to F podcast up. Today we are talking about the Epstein files that don't have anything in them.
The Epstein exposure that wasn't. One of the biggest letdowns of the week. Oh my gosh. So I guess we need to tee this up because I don't have a video actually on it specifically. I have a video of Glenn Beck talking to Liz Wheeler after the fact. So let me try to tee this up quickly. Essentially, Benny Johnson asked, I think it's Attorney General Pam Bondi, hey, are we going to get the Epstein files? And she goes, oh, yes, they're sitting on my desk. I'm looking at them right now. And everybody's like, great. And then she says the same thing on Jesse Waters. Finally, the big day arrives. We're supposed to get these Epstein files. We're supposed to finally get this new information. And bizarrely, they give these giant trapper keepers to a bunch of YouTubers. And this is really bizarre. So they give these trapper keepers with Epstein Files Phase 1 on them. These YouTubers stumble out of the White House, and they're holding the trapper keepers up like it's some kind of photo op, which looks just awful and tacky because, you know, children were horribly abused and, like, you know, this is like a horrible crime that's on a large scale, and you've got, you know, haha, selfie, you know.
Yeah.
It's just,
they're all like wannabe Alex Jones. They're like, we have the documents.
yeah, exactly. Like, it looked horrible. Now, this may not have actually been what happened. It may have been completely taken out of context by the nefarious media. I'll get to that in a second. But it looked like they were just rubbing it in. And then nothing, we get no information, we get no information, we get no information. Finally, Pam Bondi comes out with another letter. And she's saying that the New York office of the FBI, or the Southern District, I don't remember the fancy term, but basically an office of the FBI out of New York is holding on to the documents. They won't let them go. And everything that we received in this Epstein Files Phase 1 was just information we already had for the most part. There was like, I think, 10 pages or something that were different, but nothing earth-shattering. And more stuff was redacted in this version of the like files than what was previously released in 2016. And then to make it even more bizarre, somebody, I don't remember if it was the FBI, I don't remember if it was the Department of Justice, but somebody tied to the government on Twitter posted this song from the 80s, and they called it Rickrolled, where somebody was like, never gonna give you up. Yeah.
Never gonna give you
exactly.
up.
So implying that they're never going to let these things go. So it's like open war. Some people are like, do they even still have this stuff, or are they going to destroy it? Some people are like, no, they've already destroyed it. They probably destroyed it years ago, or at least that's like one opinion. And then others are like, they have some of it. It's possible that they have all of it because like the FBI's job is to basically muskrat information and use it for blackmail. So they may want to keep it for blackmail. But, I mean, if it becomes incredibly apparent that they can't keep it, they might destroy it. And this whole stunt they pulled might have been a play for time so they could go ahead and destroy this stuff because, you know, it's evident that they're not going to be able to keep it to themselves. But what's really bizarre about this is Pam Bondi's reaction to this. And this is what I can't make heads or tails of. Because her whole thing in this is really weird. So she goes on to these, she tells Benny Johnson, this YouTuber, that she has this stuff. She didn't have to do that. She also talks like it's a big deal with Jesse Waters. She didn't have to do that. She acted like she'd already looked through it and there was all this new dramatic stuff. But there wasn't anything. And she didn't have to make that messaging. And the thing that I can't get over is they sent those YouTubers out to a particular spot in the White House where there were reporters waiting in the bushes. So the reporters obviously had to know that they were going to be there, you know. And Liz Wheeler gives an interesting account of this.
The news is just a big photo op all the time.
Well, this was something interesting that Liz Wheeler mentioned, that they thought that, you know, the reporters were there basically because they'd been ousted. I don't think that's the case. I think they might have been put there prior, because one of the things that the Trump administration is trying to do is they are trying to basically get rid of the old school media and replace them with new media, because nobody's watching the old school media anymore. And this might have been,
new media.
Exactly. And this might have been an attempt to make the new media look incompetent so the new media or the old media could keep its validity. If that's true, then is Pam Bondi really on our side? Because she's the only person that I could think of that would have the means, motive, and opportunity to really set this up. Because somebody had to tell those reporters where to be. So somebody had to know where to send out those YouTubers. And Pam Bondi was the one holding the documents. But maybe I'm wrong. You know, Alex Jones and other people are saying that Pam Bondi got mad and she went straight to the New York office, and they've been loading those things up with trucks, loading trucks up with documents and stuff throughout the day. There was supposedly a big exchange between the head of that New York department of the FBI and somebody at the White House. So she may be like on our side and just got played, but at the very least, she either lied because she hadn't really looked at it very closely and assumed it was fine, and then got caught at the 11th hour because she hadn't double checked, thinking that these guys had actually sent the right stuff, or she's in on it. But like the whole thing is weird, because I don't know how she could have like thought I don't know what she was thinking, because before she gave it to the YouTuber, she posted this TikTok video holding the same trapper keeper, going promises made, promises kept, and essentially bragging. But I'm like, well, didn't you know that the thing was mostly redacted and filled with the exact same information that we had before? And if you did, why would you brag about that on TikTok, knowing everybody else is going to be furious because there's nothing new in that trapper keeper? Like, the way she's acted doesn't make any sense. So I don't know if she got duped and tried to cover herself in the beginning, or if she like was trying to make the new media look bad because she's secretly tied to the deep state. Like, I have no clue what's going on, but it's weird. So I wanted to play Liz Wheeler's account of what happened, and hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully Pam Bondi is one of the good guys, but I don't know. We'll see.
A good guy in government?
Comparatively speaking.
You're funny.
Oh, all right. So that being said, let me find the video. Here we go.
I've never even heard of Pam Bondi.
Well, she's the new attorney general. Like, she's relatively... Like, she was in Florida for forever, so... She's kind of a new character. All right. Here we go.
Okay, so... Hello, Stu. How are you?
Glenn, how are you?
Good. We have Liz Wheeler on with us in about 25 minutes. Liz is getting hammered from everybody.
25?
And I just want to stand up for my good friend Liz, who was invited to the White House, or the floor, because I...
Hello, ad.
want... Liz, you have the time that you need to tell this story, and I'm not going to interrupt you, but tell us exactly what happened, because you were there in the Oval Office yesterday.
I was, and thank you for having me this morning, Glenn. You know, people are very mad about what happened yesterday, and honestly, I don't blame them for being mad.
Right.
I am also very mad about what happened yesterday,
Right.
because we all expected to get the dirtiest dirt that we have ever gotten, the corruption of the government, the Epstein files. We were promised this, we expected this, and we didn't get it.
Hang on just
and
a
when
second.
We didn't get it.
Hang on just a sec before, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. But you have another reason, because you were at the White House, but you didn't know that's what you were asked to be there for. So you looks like you're carrying water for the White House when you were just there and they call you in and say, oh, here's the deal. Correct? I feel like if it's
Somewhat,
nefarious, you've kind of been used.
Well, let me get to that, because
Okay,
I think
all right.
when I tell the narrative story, it will make clear we weren't actually at the White House for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
The Epstein files is not why we were called in. We were called in to be given access to the most powerful people running our country. We met with almost every cabinet secretary, with the vice president, with the president himself, with all of the staff. We were given access as new media figures to replace the legacy media who has lied to us and demeaned us for all of these years. They are no longer going to be rewarded for doing that. So we were given the access to these people. But again, let me tell the narrative, because I want to make sure that everyone knows what happened, because people are angry, and rightfully so, because they felt like they were subject to a bait and switch, which was not the intention, I think, on anyone's part, certainly not on my part. So we were invited to the White House, and we were in meetings with all of these different cabinet officials, and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, comes into the room with Kash Patel, the FBI director, and they talk to us about what they've been doing. They give us some glimpses of what's happening behind the scenes. And Pam Bondi then brings a stack of these white binders, these infamous white binders that say Epstein Files Phase 1 on them. And when we saw these binders, of course, all of our jaws dropped, and we had the same assumption that this was going to be the juicy stuff. This was what we've been waiting for. And almost immediately, Pam Bondi says, wait a second, this is not juicy. You're not going to find in these binders what you think you're going to find in these binders. Let me explain. And immediately, she holds up that letter. I posted that letter on my X account. It was widely reported yesterday, and says, this binder is filled with 200 pages of Epstein files that was given to me by the FBI.
So I just want to pause and point this out. If my previous theory had been right, I don't know why she would have explained this to them. You know what I mean? Because she, gives it to them, and then she also, if you notice, gives this letter that was saying that the FBI was holding out on him. So it's I'm having a hard time understanding what happened here, because on the one hand, it's those reporters were clearly there to catch those YouTubers, you know? But on the other hand, she did tell them that all these files were a nothing burger. But then on the other hand, they weren't allowed to say that these files were a nothing burger until halfway through the afternoon. It doesn't make any sense. It's why was this played the way it was at all? This is one of the strangest situations I've seen. And
it's there is no Epstein files, and it's just
well,
a big, they want to get people's emotions undulating.
Well, there might not
even
be
really anything there.
You might be right. There might not be anything. They may have had it until they realized Trump got in and then destroyed it all. Because Kash Patel said he'd seen them. There was a time when those files existed. But
by the way, why do we have a Pajit as the head of our CIA? He's not even American. What the fuck is up with that?
Are you talking about Kash Patel?
Yeah.
He's the head of the FBI, not CIA.
He's an Indian.
Well, he's still the one that... He's one of the reasons why Trump's out of jail, because he's the one that, exposed the Mueller report and, the fact that Clinton basically paid for false evidence. He's the guy that outed it.
I don't know anything about that, but
Well, yeah, that whole Russia collusion thing was complete bullcrap.
What the hell?
I don't think
everybody
that
already
really
knew
matters.
that.
No, they didn't. I wish they
it.
did. Well, yes, you and I knew it, because we actually say 2 + 2 = 4 out loud. You know, but these guys are high schoolers sometimes, and they just want to say what's popular. So nobody was willing to admit that this whole Russia collusion.
Say 2 + 2 is 2 or 4.
Yeah, we need a little kid saying the emperor's running around naked before people will actually believe it. I mean, people are...
Crazy.
I know. People will go under delusion just to stay cool. And that was what was going on at the whole Russia collusion thing. I remember when it first came out, and I was like, there's no way people are going to buy this. And then they did. They bought it for 3 years. It was the stupidest thing I ever saw. But it was Patel's report that put a stop to that. And the evidence got to the point where it was really obvious, and then nobody said they were wrong. They just quit talking about it, you know?
Yeah.
So, I am glad Kash Patel's in there. I think he knows where the bodies are buried, and I'm optimistic about him doing a good job. I don't know anything about Pam Bondi, though. I know nothing about her.
When you put foreigners as the head of your
I don't think
government departments, that's how you get your country taken over.
Define foreigner, because I don't know how long Kash
Indian.
Patel's been in the country. If
His
he's been here his
parents
whole
were
life,
Canadian and African. They got kicked out of Africa, then got kicked out of Canada, then came here.
well, if he's a citizen, I don't care. So
I do.
Why though? Like that. I think it's
He's not
fine.
from here.
Cody,
Yeah.
I disagree with you very much, sir. I don't know what else to say about it.
It's all right.
Yeah.
You can be wrong.
So can you. It's all right.
When I made the request, upon the request of the president, because he was fulfilling his promise, to declassify and release the Epstein files. I asked the FBI, give me the files. They brought me these 200 pages, put them on the desk, and assured me that this was all the files that they had. And Pam Bondi relates to us. She's like, it seemed weird. I smelled a rat because this is all the files. This is all we have. And she's like, and I repeatedly made requests to verify, are you sure this is all the files? And I was assured that this was all the files.
But that can't be right either. Because she's on the news going, oh yeah, it'll turn your stomach. This is just crazy stuff when it's all the same stuff we had before.
Yeah.
Like there's like she's clearly lying about something. I kind of think she was duped, but it could be more nefarious than that. I don't know because I don't know anything about her. So
Wait, Liz Wheeler or
no, Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi. I believe Liz Wheeler's account of this. It's just what Pam Bondi's saying according to her account, and the way she was behaving on the news the night before is not consistent at all. Because she acted so confident when she was talking to Benny Johnson and Jesse Waters, and then according to this, she's going, this isn't what we thought it was. You know what I mean? And but then at the same time, she's going, oh, but I knew it, and I thought it was weird that we only gotten so little. And she's like, are you sure this is all of it? And blah, blah, blah.
Sounds like she's just lying and getting caught in her own, trap.
It sounds like she's lying. What she's lying about though is harder to say.
Yeah.
I kind of think
like
that
she has a party line she has to follow, and so she lied to follow that line and then stepped into shit.
Yeah. Well, I think what happened. This is just my opinion. I think what'd you say? This is Trevor. He wrote some stuff. Turtle Chief says 2 + 2 = TikToks. It does not, sir. Turtle Chief also says duped or paid off. This is my theory. I think she gave the thing to a staffer and assumed everything was on the up and up, and then at the 11th hour went, oh crap. I think because you got to remember, Trump's administration's moving really, really fast. They're currently investigating James Comey for other honeypot scandals and all sorts of crap. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I think this is one of those like side issues that Trump promised, and it's like, Epstein died like years ago, so it's pretty well over. I think it was just kind of one of those things that got sent to somebody else that nobody actually thought there was anything there. And then the FBI clearly held out on them, and they went, oh no. And they had to come up with something. So they basically put out what the FBI had already given them, but they added phase 1 on there to kind of cover their butts, to hopefully kind of hide the fact that they'd been lied to. But then everybody got so mad they had to admit that they'd been lied to, and now there's like this big standoff with the New York FBI office. Yeah. So I just don't think they were paying attention, and they didn't realize the FBI was going to be this uncooperative.
Yeah.
So
sounds right. I just this is the first time hearing about any of this. So
yeah, it's a mess. It's a coup. Your government's been run by the intelligence agencies since Kennedy died. You have not lived in a republic for years. Freedom is a lie. We're fighting to try to get it back, maybe. So. Optimism.
Yeah.
And she's like, you will find in this binder that it's a nothing burger, that we have most of this information already declassified and redacted. I do believe there's a few things in there that hadn't, but it's nothing salacious. It's just a contact list of phone numbers. It's nothing. And flight logs, stuff we already have. And she said, the scandal is that last night, after it was clear that I was going to release these documents, I got contacted by a whistleblower from within the SDNY, which of course is part of the Department of Justice, part of the FBI. And this whistleblower told me that the SDNY was hiding potentially thousands of more documents about Epstein because they did not want her to release it.
Okay.
Now.
Okay, I got to use the little boy's room. So I'm going to let this run, and give me like 15 seconds.
All right.
This, of course, if true, is the scandal of the century.
Yes.
That there are deep state agents swamp creatures in the swamp, in the FBI, in the SDNY that are defying the President of the United States, defying the Attorney General, defying the Director of the FBI. That is breathtaking. I'm at a loss for words in how breathtaking this is to see the swamp. Now, you and I know, Glenn, everyone with us today knows that just because you cut off the head of the snake, just because you replace the top political appointees at an agency, it doesn't remove immediately all of those who would wish to subvert the will of the president. That takes time.
Yep.
And so the fact that we have concrete evidence in the form of this tangible binder that they gave this to Pam Bondi and told her, this is it, this is the smoking gun, when it is a nothing burger, that is a huge story. The entire SDNY should be fired. This place should be absolutely razed.
I agree.
So put a pin in that for a second. That's what happened in the secure briefing room at the White House. We met with we went into the Oval Office. We talked to President Trump. We talked to Secretary of State Marco Rubio. We talked to HHS Secretary RFK Jr. And then, of course, we weren't allowed to have our phones on us during this time in the West Wing. They were in a secure box downstairs. We were told that, we needed to leave this secure briefing room because the UK Prime Minister was coming and they were going to take us out the back of the White House and downstairs to get our phones. We were, of course, really excited because we had just gotten a coin from the president personally, and he was showing us the portraits in the Oval Office. I mean, it's a surreal experience to visit this central place of power, and we were really honored to have been there, as I think anyone would be. So we go out back, excited to get our phones, because as soon as we get these phones, we're going to dive into these binders. We know that there's nothing really in them, but we have this letter, this huge story to break that previously would have been given to the legacy media, but it was given to us about the SDNY. But as we're going out the back door, we're rushed a little bit by White House
Thank you for
staff,
waiting.
And I personally found this funny because I'm a history nerd. We're told, hurry, the British are coming,
Right.
because we needed to be out of the way of the hallway for the UK Prime Minister. Now, being the political nerds that we are, we all thought that was really funny. When's the last time someone shouted the British are coming in the White House? But once we get outside, we see that there's a gaggle of press, essentially in the bushes to the side of the White House. And the looks on their faces, so sour, so dour, so astonished to see us, because it wasn't a publicly announced meeting per se. And
That tells me compartmentalization. The press were just told to stand there and wait. They're already in a bad mood. And then out come all these YouTubers with the Epstein files, and they start taking pictures, and the YouTubers start gloating. Like, that screams setup to me.
Yeah.
Like, am I crazy? I feel like, I'm got a tinfoil hat maybe, but I think that makes sense. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Turtle Chief says that was longer than 15 seconds. Thank you.
That's what she said, Trevor.
We live in an age. And then he drops some sage wisdom. He says, we live in an age where podcasts give you more news than the news. That's pretty embarrassing and frightening, but yes. So, all right. Them's the Epstein files. Cody, you're looking pretty tired. You want to just move on to Biggs?
Yeah, man, I'm about to fall asleep.
All right. Okay, let's move on to Biggs.
You could tell, huh?
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I wasn't planning on the podcast being this long, but...
Yeah, well, I mean, that's probably my fault for the beginning.
That's okay. Yeah, that whole hour was unplanned, so I'm like, all right. That's okay, though. So... we're going to probably wrap this one up. It probably isn't a full half hour, so it probably won't end up being a podcast, but it will be on YouTube. So anyway, all right, that's all we got for part 3. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Deuces.
All right. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Faith, Fiction, and Folklore. If you did, we would love it if you would subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Rumble. We can also be found on X, Instagram, and Facebook. And we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Thank you again very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.